Hello and welcome to Soul Talk Sundays. Soul Talk Sundays, a space of service and a space for you to come in, perhaps listen, and perhaps just sink into your own space. Whether that means allowing yourself just to open up to what is being said, or perhaps just allow yourself just to enter your own space where you can receive that connection, that forever space of connection with the divine. I've wanted to put on something like this for a while in terms of putting on a regular session where we can connect with what is sacred, connect with the divine on Sundays, because we all love to keep it traditional. And there is something about really stepping up into that space, honouring that space of what has passed. And I hope that with what comes through, it will just allow us to perhaps take on board some information that we can take forward into the next week, into the month as it unfolds, and just allow ourselves to start to cultivate that space of stillness, surrender, and ultimately stepping into that sacred moment that is ever present. So what I will say as I move into speaking is that here, as we allow ourselves to sit, as we allow ourselves to just sink into this space, there is a space of presence in which we can allow ourselves to inhabit. And that means stepping away from the problems of the day, the week, allowing ourselves to recognize the importance of the present moment. And obviously, depending where we are in life, that can be quite hard. If we're going through a period of difficulty, it can be hard to step outside of that story, to allow it to fall to the wayside, and to allow what will and what wants to emerge. It can be quite hard to allow ourselves to slow down into that space of freedom, this space of presence. And it can be quite painful, because the more we allow ourselves to slow down, the more we allow ourselves to become present, we can actually witness what is being held perhaps in the body, be it our emotions, our feelings. Perhaps there's a mixture of pain. But it is through that presence that we can actually find our way to access that healing, that space in which we can recognize our emotions, our feelings, the pain, our thoughts that keep us in perpetual loops. If we can slow down and to recognize where it is coming from, then we can start to see that we have the way in which we can heal it. we can recognize that all of what we need is present. You'll have to forgive me. The sun is coming down right on top of me, so if I'm just closing my eyes, I'm very present and very aware of the sun that is here. This time at the moment, with the heat in a lot of different places, the heat's been very intense, and depending where you are, you will see this very differently. But from my own reflections, this intense heat has brought that intensity, but it's almost like an intense point of proposition. It's like this intensity and the heat is coming in a multitude of forms, in which it's allowing us the space to be propped up, to be seen for what it is that we are doing, our actions that we are doing. And I can only speak for myself, but there's a space in which our actions are wanting to be witnessed, that our truth is wanting to surface. And when I speak about this, I'm not just speaking about the idea of owning our truth, speaking our truth. But deeper than that, I'm actually wanting to ask the question of what does that mean? What is your truth? But not just your truth as you see it out in the world, but what is your truth to you? When we allow ourselves to get caught in our stories, in our experience, when we allow ourselves to develop a deep perceptive layer to how we experience reality, and perhaps at times those perceptive layers can be one-sided, they can be hidden, and they can also be hidden to ourselves, because the story in which we are allowing ourselves to persist on telling is actually hiding a deeper level of our being. It's hiding access to that pain and what that pain is trying to teach us. And our story is here to be seen. Our story is what allows us to connect on a human level to one another. Our story and our belief and the way in which we perceive reality allows all of life to persist. Because if we didn't allow ourselves to find story, to find meaning in existence, then quite quickly our meaning for being would perceptibly disappear. But it is allowing ourselves to step away from the depth of the story that we've created, the depth of the narrative that we are constantly propagating, and to recognize that perhaps when we step back, we can see that some of what we've been weaving isn't actually true, not only to others, but to ourselves. And some of that story is actually asking to be seen for its falsities, and is asking to be dissolved. And the truth, that authentic expression of who you are, the truth of what you want to create, the truth of your story of who you are here to be and what you are here to do, that is what wants to emerge in authenticity. And your life, as it is unfolding, is either living in truth or is living in a falsity. And it might seem difficult to be able to navigate that, especially if some of our stories and our narratives have perhaps hurt other people, or the truth now would seem like it would create more hurt than it's worth. But what I would say is that ultimately, for you to come into right relationship, not only with yourself, but with the divine, I won't tell you what I just saw, but it means breaking down those barriers that we've created. It means destroying the stories of falsity, because only then can we allow ourselves to move past that pain, to allow the pain to dissipate, to allow the emotions to rise to the surface, to be seen, to be witnessed. And that truth that is wanting to come out, that is wanting to emerge, will not only benefit you, but it will benefit all of life. Because there's no more weight for you to carry. There's no more hiding behind a false version of yourself. Perhaps even not even recognizing that you've been hiding in the first place. And those layers of story that are wanting to unwind, that are ultimately unwinding irregardless of whether you show up to the truth. Those layers are wanting to dissipate, to allow the true emergence of spirit to come, to allow the spiritual and the physical to come into balance. For the spiritual to be embodied. And perhaps you see yourself as different than spirit, God, source, consciousness. But what I would say is that ultimately the largest difference between someone who feels separate from God is just the stories that we weave. And the more we can allow ourselves to break them down, the more we allow in Spirit, God, into our lives, the more we can allow that connection to effortlessly unfold. And I'm not saying, if you're here and you're listening, I'm not saying, everyone here is a liar, speak up to the truth and own it. What I'm saying is there might be lies that you are living, that you are conscious of. And if there are, then now is the time to own up. If anyone comes to mind, if any situations come to mind, if you come to mind, then speak your truth. Speak your truth to you, to the other. And you can allow God into your life in ways that you have not even witnessed, in ways that you have not even experienced to date. The truth is a journey. The truth of who you are is a journey of recovery, of remembrance, of hurt, of pain, but nothing more than what you are already experiencing. And ultimately, the more we step into owning that truth, owning that space of and that presence of who we are, the more we can allow in that greater aspect, and the more we can recognize who we are not. And with that, we'll just I invite you to sit and to close your eyes just for a few minutes, a couple of minutes. Perhaps you would like to hold a hand on your heart. And I just invite you to listen as we just call out to that space within, as we call out to the divine within and without. And as you sit here, I just invite you to take a nice deep breath, allowing the outer breath to last slightly longer than the inner. And in your own time, taking another nice deep breath. And then one final, slightly longer, slightly deeper, slightly slower in-breath and out-breath. And I just invite you to allow any situation, any memory, any feeling to surface where perhaps you can invite more truth into the moment. Perhaps that means showing up in a different way. Perhaps that means just recognizing it and taking a nice deep breath to the emotions and the feelings that arise from that recognition. And if there's anything big that arises, anything big or small, but anything arises that you feel like you need help with, then I just invite you to send that out there. To not only ask for support from that greater aspect of what you believe in, but also surrendering over the process, surrendering over the way in which you feel it should look like. And just acknowledging that this is a journey. And the more you can allow yourself to show up in this moment, the more you can allow yourself to show up in the next moment. And perhaps when we feel like we're falling, when we feel like we're not supported, perhaps feeling separate, if we allow ourselves to come into this space, or even just into the memory of going, yes, I said I was going to surrender. I said I was going to walk in more truth. I threw it up to something that was greater than myself. No matter how much faith or how little faith I have, that I just asked for the way to be shown. And then all we do is we show up. And the more awareness we bring to any situation, the more of a choice we give ourselves. As we're stepping outside of that unconscious space where we can move away from the idea of bliss in ignorance. And we can move into that space of presence in awareness, in truth. And we can start to gain some kind of control over our lives. Even if that might seem like it comes about in a different kind of way. Because what we're actually inviting in is that space of surrender. Surrendering to the truth of who we are. surrendering to speak the truth. Not the truth of the limited story that I've been telling myself, but the truth. Owning up to the situation, owning up to the story and the experience that is unfolding before me. Feeling the feelings, the emotions, the pain. Just take another nice deep breath. Everything you need in life is right here. No matter what we think we need with the stories we've told ourselves, everything we need, including our connection to that something greater, is right here. And the only thing that is stopping us from finding that connection is the stories and the lies that we've told ourselves unconsciously and consciously. And the deeper we start to allow ourselves to walk this path, the deeper we go into unraveling the lies and seeing what is true. It is both a conscious and an unconscious happening. Just like the falsities, the lies were also a conscious and unconscious happening. And just take another nice deep breath for me, relaxing into your body. The more we allow ourselves to live our life in truth, the more we allow ourselves to find the peace, the harmony, and the story of what we have actually been wanting to unfold will actually start to come into being, just in ways that we never thought would be possible. And when you're ready, just take one final nice deep breath. And a nice slow breath out. And in your own time, just gently open your eyes if you haven't already. We have everything we need. We just like to project, and we like to send the ideas of what we think we want out there. And the story follows. And our wounds and our patternings, they perpetuate the lies. And it's not our fault. There is no right or wrong here. There is just the space that we find ourselves in and the awareness that we can bring to any situation. So thank you very much for listening if you've made it this far, and I hope to be here for as many Sundays as I can and see how it unfolds. I'm also going to be starting a podcast, as long as I can keep to what I say. The podcast will be the Sacred Living podcast, and it will talk about how we can actually come together and practice right relationship, and how we navigate the world that we're living in all different aspects. So that will be one project that hopefully will take off the ground soon, and in the very least, I'll see you for the next Sunday session. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Lots of love.